Vitiligo to virtual runways. In this second edition of Emerging Tech Journeys, I speak to Wildy Martinez, who is a fashion designer, AI artist, and creative entrepreneur. She's Dominican American, que lo que, and she uses emerging tech to tell powerful stories of self acceptance, identity, and transformation. She shares about being born in the DR, growing up in the Bronx, NYC, navigating colorism, vitiligo, finding healing through her art. She opens about her transition into emerging tech, from NFTs to immersive digital fashion, and how she's reclaiming her narrative while inspiring others to do the same. Key themes throughout this episode. We talk about identity, healing, self expression through art, using NFTs and blockchain to empower artists and protect creative ownership, the blending of physical and digital elements in immersive fashion experiences, such as what we did together at the University of Medellin as part of Hola Metaverso, and how fantastic that turned out. If you watch this, then you'll get some BTS videos from the experience. We also talk about challenging beauty standards and celebrating cultural heritage. You know, this colorism situation that a lot of us deal with in Latino communities and Black communities. So we discuss that, and we also talk about the importance of community and collaboration in the creative process. So this conversation dives deep into the power of community, the future of art and fashion, how decentralized tech is helping creatives build legacy on their own terms, and so much more. So I give you Wildy Martinez. Hola. Welcome to Word to Your Mama, the podcast that amplifies diverse voices and celebrates shared experiences. Hosted by me, Ritzy P, a Latina creative entrepreneur with a background in art, music, and new web technologies. From Academy and Emmy winners to activists, artists, and builders, we celebrate the rich diversity of my multicultural tribe. There will be special guests, mad laughs, and absolutely no BS. Word to Your Mama drops every Monday on your favorite podcast platform. Mi Wildy, ¿cómo estás?
Ritzy, very good. Excited to chat with you.
Yes. Yeah, I've been wanting to have you on for a long time, and schedules that just didn't work out. And yeah, so we're here now. So let's start off by, letting the folks know, where were you born and raised, and where are your peoples from?
Oh, yes. So my parents are Dominican, both of them from the same town, from the same block, actually in Dominican Republic, Mocha. But I was born and raised in Washington Heights, 171st and Audubon, OSF. And I was born and raised there. I was there till I was 18, and then when I was turned 18, my parents bought a home in the Bronx. So we moved to the Bronx, but at that time, I was already in FIT in school, so I spent my time mostly downtown, during school. But yeah, we moved to the Bronx. But yeah, born and raised in New York City, inner city kid. And yeah, that's my background. Grew up in a generational building, so my grandmother lived on the first floor, fourth floor. Then she moved to the first floor. I had aunts and uncles in the same block. I am known as one of Felix's daughter. Felix is my dad, so I had people watching me, making sure I didn't get in trouble, reporting back to my dad. So I grew up in that kind of, um, that era in the 90s to, yeah, 80s and 90s where all the immigrants kind of just migrated to the Heights, Dominican and Puerto Ricans, mostly Dominican, and everyone just looked out for each other. You know, I was a kid of many parents there. And my dad was very popular, still is. He was the president of the block party.
What?
So I grew up in that house that kids wanted to be in because of my dad.
That's beautiful. And, to be in a whole brand new country, but have literally your entire family, like, in a building, that's like, they say it takes a village. You were all up in the village, like your building was the village. That's a beautiful thing.
And you know what? Shout out to PBS. They have a cartoon called Alma's Way. It's about a little girl who grew up in the Bronx, and she lives with her like it's a generational. And my son, who's 8 now, watches it, And like I'm like, that's how I grew up, like taking the train, and I'm like, shout out to that cartoon for representing almas like myself
Right.
grew up in that environment, because you don't really see that as much anymore, unfortunately.
Right. Right. That's a beautiful thing. So you mentioned that you went to, FIT and stuff like that. When you're out nowadays, you go out, whether it's a family situation, a work situation, you just happen to be out and about, and someone asks you, what do you do? How do you answer that question?
Definitely, I would say I'm in the creative field because I dabble in so many different areas, especially now with, we've been Web3 together. But I think for a long time, everyone knew me as the fashion designer because I was designing for so many years. I went to school for it, went to high school, went to college for it, and then had a career, almost 20 years of me being in the fashion industry. And now I'm getting more recognition for my art and the artificial intelligence artworks that I do and fashion. So I would say I'm a creative artist, fashion designer person. It's
Extraordinaire.
so hard to like say who, and I've spoken to you about this. Like it's hard. Like when we were in Colombia together, it's like who do you see me as? Who am I? Like we
Yeah.
kind of like tell me what you see, because sometimes when we're dabbling in so many different things, especially in tech, you kind of don't know how to say who you are in one thing. But
Right.
on Instagram, I'm known as a founder, creative director, and designer. if technically,
See, there it is.
yes.
There it is. That's like the gist of it. But I think the through line is you're a creative. And
Mhm.
it's just different mediums, right? Different practices, depending, some you do as a business, some you do personal. I mean, but I think you're a creative through and through. Entrepreneur, creative entrepreneur, if you will. That's how I see you.
Nice. I'm gonna use that. Creative. What you said? Creative.
Entrepreneur, a
Yes.
creative entrepreneur.
I feel like maybe like not maybe I wouldn't say that my parents knew this, but I definitely believe that I was born to be in this creative side of the world because of even my name, how unique it is, and it's just
Right.
Wildy, and and it's a very artistic name and represents me very well. I think now I grew into my name now that I'm in my 40s. Finally, I I'm like comfortable with it. But it's crazy how names and like even that, like my parents say, oh, she's the designer, or she's the creative, or she's an amazing artist. Like they just fed me all these um, words, and I literally became what they said I would. So, and my grandmother
Yeah,
was a fashion designer, my mom's side. So if my mom
there
always
it
said,
is.
"You got the gene, you got it,"
You
So.
got the gene. So for those that don't know, yeah, your name isn't your moniker. Your name is really your name. Like your parents gave you that name. So what is like the short version of the origin story of Wildy?
I mean, it definitely means wild. My dad says, salvaje. We have so many different stories behind my name, which I won't do my dad like that. But apparently, my mom was like, "Why did you misspelled her name?" So I think my mom had a different idea. I think she wanted to name me Wendy. That's one side of the story. My
Right.
dad said purposely wild for wild. Um, And then I actually, I'm a spiritual person. I was praying about my name, and I'm like, man, like I've had such a hard time accepting my name because it is so different. And people are like, what is it again? And Wildy, or is it I'm Dominican, so like is it short for Wilhelmina or Willy? Love adding X's and I's and Y's just because. My sister's name is Jordan, and it's spelled with a double L with a Spanish alphabet. It's like extra.
Right.
And there is, probably it, Ritzy, by now, but I do like a quote that says, "In a field of roses, she's a wildflower," which is something that I live by now. Like I'm not gonna be like whenever I feel like I am going to do something because everyone else is doing it, or to shrink myself down to blend in. I'm a wildflower. I'm not a rose. I am unique, and so are all the women. But there is also like a Bible verse that says, "Look at the wildflowers and how they grow. No one tends to them but me." And it's kind of like being.
Right.
I don't want to say I'm a black sheep at all, but I always felt so different, as all creatives do, and people who
Right.
are in innovation. I always feel so different, and I always felt different from like in my house or my family or my siblings. And I just felt like I always lived in this little world and very lonely. And I bumped into that
Right.
Bible verse, which is saying, like, hey, God got me. It's kind of like what like, you don't need nobody. Like, I got you. How
Right.
you bloom?
Right.
Me. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I definitely like that verse means so much to me. Like, um, moments when I thought I was like strange, it was because I was set apart in a way. Not that I'm like God's favorite child or anything like that, but this is for all creatives, for everyone that, for all the kids that felt like I don't belong here,
Yeah.
and it's, yeah, because you're unique, like no
Mhm.
man had to do with this. No, no, it's not your mother or your father, and like you were created like this, so
Yeah.
another kind of adoption of why I'm like, wow, like this is such a special name. And that's why, like, it literally, when I was 30 and decided to go back into art with NFTs, was when I was like, I'm going to own this name, and I could tell the story about how, what art piece and what happened with that and how that came about.
No, I love that, and I think that, things are put in our path for a purpose. Your name was different, but you also felt different. And as you evolve and we do the healing and figuring out, because when you're little, when you're young, even when you're an adult, but especially when you're in those formative years and you're coming of age, all you want to do is belong. All you want to do is like be like other people. But there was a purpose, right? Like there was a purpose that your name is a certain way. Even if you had another name that was a, quote unquote normal name, you didn't feel you felt different, right? Because the creatives that are watching or listening right now know exact. They're shaking their heads, going, "Mm-hmm," because you're telling the story, and I'm going. I'm remembering how I was just like, I don't. What's happening here?
Yeah.
What am I doing in this timeline? Like I was like, I don't understand. So and then when you grow up and you go into your own, it's like I look back, especially we'll talk about it in a little bit. Writing those chapters, our chapters in that book, it just was like connect the dots and made the journey like make all the sense. And before we go into deeper into a little bit about your journey into emerging tech, when I became aware of you entering the space, I was really drawn to you because of what your art, what you and your art stood for. And it was to embrace your uniqueness,
Hmm.
And if you don't mind, telling the folks about a little bit about that and where that stems from, if you feel so inclined to talk about vitiligo and that extra layer of differentness and otherness and stuff like that.
Yeah. And even talking about my name, and even looking at myself with my curly hair, I'm like, wow, I for so long just struggled so much to embrace my name, my curly hair, because I grew up in Dominican culture, and as in many cultures, I grew up with so much colorism, right? So
Right.
it's just you're born hearing these things from family members. So I already had um, this thing about I didn't want to go be in the sun too much because I didn't want my skin to be darker, because I wanted to be like my mom, who's light skin, and my dad is dark skin. So I didn't want to be like my dad. And they used to tell me, "Oh, you're like trigueñita, like your dad." And I remember like being aware of my skin color and not wanting to tan, which is so crazy. Then I got vitiligo, which, and then with my hair, I grew up in a home in a generation, or like in a home where we had a lot of beauticians. So my grandmother was a beautician. I'm Dominican, so people know Dominican blowout. That's what I would get, and I would be in the hair salon to straighten my hair because I didn't want it to be curly, because curly wasn't professional or sophisticated or elegant for a wedding. It meant I was, you know, not perfect or not put together, right? So that was like
Right.
the mentality behind, kind of blow dry, making my hair straight. So and then my name. So I just felt like I was against
Mm.
myself for so long,
Right.
which is kind of crazy. I was fighting who my uniqueness for so long. And at 25, 24, 25, I was already, I think I was a junior designer already. I think, yeah, so I had like maybe 4 years working in the fashion industry, super stressed out. The industry was crazy back then. It still is, but I think in the early 2000s, the things I did to just, get ahead and like that,
Right.
there was no HR. It was just a mess. Um, and I was very stressed out, and I got diagnosed with vitiligo, which is an autoimmune disease, right? So I first got it here around my face, and I was like, "Oh man!" And then it went away. I'm like, "Oh, okay, could have been a sun blotch." And then I started seeing the white. My hands, obviously, now I'm completely without melanin. So I was trigueñita, which is like a, you know, café con leche skin color, a little bit darker than you. I literally have no more brown left to testify my origin. Got no testimony in me. And oh, by the way, yeah, we joke around here, me and Ritzy. And yeah, so I started to lose my melanin. I didn't know what it was. I remember my aunt's on my father's side husband was like, and I remember that was like we didn't really talk about it. You kind of
Mm.
ignored it. I went to the doctors, and they're like, yeah, it's vitiligo. Like, there's nothing you can do. You could put cream on it and hope for the best. Like, there was no whoever is diagnosed with any autoimmune or skin condition. The first things I believe that doctors should do is here's a therapist. It is
Yes.
an emotional,
Right off the bat.
yeah, it is an emotional disease because, yeah, it doesn't hurt me. Like, it doesn't hurt me as in physically, but you are watching your body change, right? So, my body, the autoimmune disease, because my body is thinking that the cells that are producing the melanin are bad for me. So, it attacks
Mm.
and removes it. So that's what vitiligo is. So that's when your skin becomes white. People are born with it. Some people it happens because of trauma, stress. Um, it could be, yeah. So mine, I definitely feel like it was a little bit of stress induced. At that time, I was having work stress, family
Right.
problems, and I just didn't know how to. I didn't have the psychological or emotional support, um, so my body took it, and my type of vitiligo is called universal. So mine spreads.
Ah.
So it spreads as in like it spreads as in my I lose my melanin, right? Some people just have it where it's only on one side of their face, or like Winnie Harlow, who's a very famous fashion designer and fashion model. She kind of has a symmetrical, but mine basically there is no cure. I mean, right now they are having cures for people. Oh, can you see me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hold on a second. Oh, so weird. It like went blank. Anyways, I was diagnosed, and I didn't have the emotional support
Right.
or the 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 type of support I needed. So I went into covering it up. So working in the fashion industry as a professional, I would use this product called Dermablend, which is like to cover tattoos. And every day I would put makeup on my hands because that's where it kind of started spreading. I would put makeup on my hands every day for years. There was a lot of shame for me to cover up. It wasn't like, hey, you're beautiful. Like, that's just, it was more like, oh my God, this is happening to you. We need to have to hide it. We had to
Right.
just, and that made it worse. So vitiligo gets worse with stress. I was just on a I guess, what is it called when you're like, it's not swirling, but I
Spiral, like a downward
spiral.
spiral.
Tú sabes, eso mismo. spiraling in my own anxiety of what people are going to think about me now.
Right.
Because there was so much in my culture, in my family, it's like so much pressure on how you look and how you're perceived by others.
Right.
So I was like, oh my gosh. So for, a long time, I was putting my makeup on. I was, fashion designer, so I knew how to style myself where no one really would notice.
Right.
I, it's hot, New York City summer. I had I would wear long sleeves, cover up as much as I could. And then in 2016, I became a mom, and my vitiligo I lost it. I already had like maybe all my hands were white by then. And I still was brown, maybe like 80% brown, but like my majority of my hands and my neck was already like white. And I remember becoming a mom and thinking, he's a baby. Like, I can't be putting on creams and makeup
Right.
and then smearing it all over the baby. Ooh. So I was like, you know what? Since my hands are completely white, I'm not gonna put makeup on anymore. I'll just wear long sleeves. Like it was just like, you know, such a struggle. And so little by little, like I would just like, say like, I'm just gonna deal with my hands being white and hopefully nobody would notice. And then 4 years ago, I moved to North Carolina, and I didn't know anyone. I just knew like a cousin, my cousin's cousin that lived there, but I didn't know anyone. No one really knew me. I didn't have family members or cousins or coworkers, and I don't know, something like I had like a shift in my brain, and I was like, I'm gonna wear a bathing suit. I'm gonna wear, because nobody is gonna say anything. They don't. And I just felt like if people saw me, they would just be like, "Oh, she was born that way." Like I didn't have
Yeah.
anyone saying they knew how I looked like before.
Right.
So I felt a little bit more freedom here. Like,
Mm.
so I started doing, wearing my no makeup for the first time when I moved here, and I entered I know where, but it has to do with art. But I entered the NFT space, the digital art world, crypto artist space, and um was I think at the time like I was talking about colorism was my first collection, but not really talking about me or vitiligo or my own struggles with colorism, but more of uplifting my sisters, my black sister, Afro Latina sisters. And there was a art piece that I created called Wildflower 38. I turned 38 years old, and I created this fashion piece art, and I added vitiligo to it, and I shared my story for the first time ever with the whole world. And I said like I have vitiligo, and like I'm tired of hiding, and I just lost so many years. Everything revolved around my skin, whether or not I was going to go on a family outing to the beach. I was in a bad mood, or I was trying to um protect my own heart. Like I
Mm.
would, my wedding date was surrounded by like, vitiligo. Like it had to be not too hot, not too cold. I had to wear sleeves. My honeymoon, my husband's gonna see, all these things.
Yeah.
And so everything just revolved around my skin, and I was just so tired of it. And this art piece was called Wildflower 38, which became part of the collection called Jardín de Libertad, which is the Freedom Garden. So I did this little series. That was my first one. Then I did a piece called Libertad. And then I did a piece called Confianza, which is basically, you know, helping people like come to the Freedom Garden. Join me here because it's so good. And I don't need to like hide anymore. And then that piece was collected by Alex, which was the founder of Meta Angels, and then Hug, founder of Hug. And that piece changed everything for me because then people knew. And then I would get DMs by women or moms that had kids with vitiligo and they wanted me to talk about it. And that's like art just healed me so much, still is,
Mm.
because
Right.
I keep losing my melanin. So I keep drawing it on art as a way to like celebrate, but also I feel like I am um it's an act of self-forgiveness for the time that I spent hiding, like a decade
Right.
of me, living like that, which is like I'm not gonna get emotional, but like, man, I can't
You
believe
can get emotional. You can get emotional
I get
on here. That's
emotional during
fine.
this podcast.
Yes.
It's like it's just so crazy that I did that, and I think becoming a mother, I'm like, imagine my son, and
Yeah.
I want him to know like he's free. That's why he was born with straight hair and then he lost it and then one little curl came out and I was like, "Oh, I have curly hair." And then guess what I did? Big chop, curly hair because I want him to be proud of his hair.
Yeah.
And he is. Like I'm like, wow, I wish that I had that support, that
Right.
and I'm just glad that he has me, champion him, like, like, I love your skin color, especially now that we're in the South. I was like,
Right.
love your hair. If somebody says something about your hair, you say, oh, well, I love my hair. We like had to practice that when we moved here.
Yeah.
um so being a mom and then entering Web3 as an artist with that voice of like the art of self-embrace has changed like my life. Do I say I'm completely 100% confident when I go out? No, like I'm still like, oh,
You're
uh,
human.
yeah. And but it's crazy that when now I know so many people with vitiligo, I'm in part of a vitiligo collective. I went to a collective, an event last year, summer, and everyone had vitiligo. But because I don't have any brown to show, like I want to be a
Imposter. Imposter.
I'm not original. I'm not original color,
Like, here's my picture. Here's my picture.
one after. But it's crazy that now like I want to have proof that
Right.
I am. I know it sounds so strange, and I guess maybe that's why putting on the art is very therapeutic
Yeah.
for me. And I know I just love hearing back from other people that have it and DMs or like women saying like, man, maybe it's not vitiligo that they have, but it's we all have our own, things that we don't like about ourselves. And it's literally, and I know you said it so beautifully, it's like our superpower.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I love that. I mean, I feel the same way. The supernatural bear, he saved me in so many ways because, it's like that Lauren Hill verse that maybe she got it from the Bible. I don't know because I'm not well versed in the Bible, but she's like, "You inspire me to be the higher me."
Hmm. They
Like the
really do.
highest me. Like your son, that you thought of, he came into your life just at the right time
Yeah, he did.
to make you realize, like, I don't need to have all of this makeup on you. Like, and then the moving away to give you space,
Oh yeah,
little space, and mental space to be able to grapple with everything that you've been fighting against, right? And then your body's like, yo, you fighting against this? Well, I'm gonna fight it all against this. Like, I'm gonna literally fight the melanin. And I think that's a great lesson. In every conversation that I have, is like the body keeps the score. Like,
yeah,
we're not meant for that level of stress. And you said for vitiligo, it could be caused or exacerbated by stress. And here you are in a super stressful industry, the fashion industry, early 2000s. And then you have the extra stress of hiding it because of the industry you're in. Like you said, vicious cycle. And then, now you entered emerging tech and it gave you this freedom. So if someone asks you why emerging tech? Why is it important? Why are you in it? How can you sum it up in like a sentence or two? For those that are watching or listening that have no idea of it or no inkling to even consider it.
yeah. I think that eventually what we're calling obviously emerging tech will be hopefully so normal and user friendly for creatives. Because what we're talking about is decentralization, having ownership over what we create. So now when I first heard about like NFTs and Web3 and blockchain, my reference was like Bored Apes, that whole thing, and then I would have like family members or people that knew me like, dude, it's a monkey. like you draw so much better than that. Like you could millions, you know. I think I'm like, oh my gosh, we're buying this, but you know, that was then. And but then when I started learning about the power of like crypto and the power of, you know, when I entered the Web3 world was 2022, so it was like bull kind of going down to bear, but I was like in it where I was selling art at least one piece every day. Like I remember telling my husband that like, oh, sold another one, just made $300, and you know, and my husband would be like, wow, and I have to over here gotta hustle to make, you know, he's like, and it was just such a rush. But also I had royalties, which unfortunately we are fighting for it to come back to the creators, where collectors will buy my art and then it'll become an asset that will increase in price. So whether they can put it back in the market at a higher price and then I would get a cut of it. So then I was seeing all the financial freedom with my art. And not only that, emerging tech, and especially in the creative, you know, this art world, we have well-known artists joining the space and then emerging artists like myself, you know, that are not in the traditional art world and galleries. And because it's like new tech, like we're on the same playing field. So the exposure I got, you know, to be in Times Square, to be in all these galleries was because of this playing field that happens when you are in a new technology. So
Right.
like sitting next to Amber Victoria, who I admire, Claire Silver knows who I am, who's like my goat when it comes to AI art. So I think I don't know if that's one sentence, but emerging tech is the future. It's it's where um all creatives, and I'm talking about again art and the art world, but it's where it makes sense for creatives to have the freedom to create, to own, and to monetize
See.
in a way where traditional world is hard to do. And with emerging tech comes learning curves. You are pioneering. It is
Mm,
hard because the technology, you know, to even mint an artwork is not as easy as posting an artwork on Instagram. You need a crypto wallet. You need to know what that means. You need to know what Bitcoin means, blockchain mean, minting, putting it on ordinals. You have to like learn a new language, which is always the
hmm
learning curve. And I can understand why an artist is like, I got to do all of that just to like market my, and then you got to do all the marketing, you know. But once you sell a piece, like I just did in ordinals, like that, my art is going to be, it's on Bitcoin, which is unchanging, uncorruptible. If I pass away and 100 years later, my son is, well, not 100 years later, but years later, and I'm gone, and my son is here, he can see his mom's art, and it's
mm,
preserved. You know, it's not going to be burnt up in a fire.
right.
He doesn't have, you know, access to his mom's early work. Like it is there. So I just created a piece called 1950 Our Power, Our Voices, and it's about women's right and our right to vote, and how even though a lot of people could vote in the 1860s, women, black women, and women of color could not until
Right.
recently, which is 1965. And just kind of the storytelling about it, because I want to record that and etch that into our history,
Yeah.
that happened, because as we know, history changes, or they try to erase women artists and women and facts from history, and I want that to be etched in and not have anyone be able to tamper with it. So that's the power of blockchain.
Right. No, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. I think that tells a lot of different stories, a lot of different entryways for people that might be listening or watching, where they can see themselves. Like, yeah, maybe right now there's a learning curve and things change. Like, when we enter the space, what they say, like a month in Web3 emerging tech was like 6 months a year, like the evolution of what's changed. And I mean, we entered around the same time. How things were then compared to today for artists in specifically changed so much. Before it was like, yeah, royalties, it's a given. Now it's like, can we have royalties? Can we please? You know, it's a whole thing. All right, food lovers, listen up. If you're looking to take your cooking to the next level, then you need to check out Who's Hungry, the brand that's bringing bold flavors straight to your kitchen. Check out two of their specialty seasonings. First up, we got Spicy Jerk Seasoning, a fiery, flavorful blend that brings the heat and authentic Caribbean taste to your meats, your veggies, and even your grilled seafood. Next up, we got Sweet and Savory Seasoning. It's a must try. It's the perfect balance of rich, bold spices and a touch of sweetness. Head over to their website, who'shungrycatering.com, to purchase these seasonings for your home cooking. Would you like to be a part of a mission of teaching meditation to 1 million children? In a world grappling with conflict, anxiety, and uncertainty, the seeds of peace must be sown early. I invite you to join me in the Decide Balance Oasis, a safe space for families where you can find bilingual meditations, mindfulness practices, and so much more. By introducing children to meditation, we empower them with invaluable tools for stress reduction and emotional regulation, increased focus and improved learning, enhanced compassion and empathy, building a foundation for peace. Decide Balance Oasis is about nurturing a generation of peaceful leaders, compassionate citizens, and global change makers. By investing in the inner peace of our children, we invest in a higher, more peaceful future for all. So go to decidebalance.com for more details. Have you struggled to explain what you do, even though you know it's powerful? Hola, I'm Marisa Estrada Rivera, aka Ritzy P, and I'm a first generation Mexicana brand, emerging tech, and culture consultant with over 15 years of experience across multiple industries in big name organizations. But the work that lights me up the most? That's supporting solopreneurs, especially women of color, in finding clarity and confidence in what they're building. That's why I created the Brand Vision and Strategy Consultation to give solopreneurs and small teams the same high impact insight I provide large companies. It's part audit, part strategy, part business therapy, and all forward momentum. This is a one on one consultation designed to help you realign your brand, clarify your messaging, and move forward with confidence and clear, actionable steps. If you're feeling stuck in a pivot or like your brand no longer reflects your magic, this is for you. You don't have to figure this out alone. So head over to ritzyperiwinkle.com/brand to book your spot. Space is limited. Let's build.
I remember someone saying, because again, answer it in bold. So I was selling art every day, selling. And I remember someone saying, like, is if the point is to get financially, to get income from your art in this matter, like, what if the holder, like the collector, doesn't put it in secondary market? Like, you're not making any royalties. And I remember, like, well, at least I sold it one time. At
Yeah,
least I sold it the first time. And kind of changing the perspective about, now collectors, my collectors, like, I love them, I cherish them. They're like never gonna resell my work unless it's they could benefit from it in a big way, where I can benefit from it in a big way. But just like whoever is left, because many people have left, but whoever is still in
right,
the Web3 artist space, like, we're devoted, we're like the real deal. We're not in it for, like, to get money, get rich, sell apes. And we're like believing in the actual technology and the power of decentralization, and having
right.
this um, database and chain that records that you're building in publicly in a way that you couldn't do it before, because everyone sees what you do when you're inscribing in the blockchain.
Right. Because for those that are not familiar with the traditional art markets that, I come from, you spend however long you spent on making a piece, hours and this and that. Then a gallery says, yeah, I want to show your work. You're part of a show, whether it's a solo show, a group show. then it's in the contract. It's usually a 60-40 split, sometimes 50-50 split, da 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 da. So say your piece was 1,000, they sell it, you only get 500. The person that's going to win is the person that bought your piece, because as your name rise and your fame rise and your recognition rise, then they can sell it on a secondary market, tertiary market, but they reap the benefits, and whoever has it reaps the benefits. And then the artist, they just got $500 for that work. So this changes the game. You sold your piece for $300. I bought it, which I'm a holder of a couple of pieces of yours. And then I bought it. Then you get that money. Then I sell it. And then that person sells it. So in perpetuity, if it's set up that way in the smart contract, if it's written that way, then you get a cut, 15, 10%, whatever, until it's over, until they stop doing it. Like, and that's the, I think that's the fight. It's like for ownership, right? And for you to make a living off of your art, where the buck doesn't stop once you sell the piece. It's like it keeps going because it's your work, it's your IP.
And not only that, because we're talking about crypto, if you're selling your work in Ethereum or in Bitcoin, guess what's happening? If Ethereum goes up and Bitcoin goes up, then you're making another like profit. You have, for example, I just sold a piece on Bitcoin. I have a choice now. I can invest it, I can cash it out, but I have now investment power in crypto. And another thing is that not only I love what you were saying, but also when an artist, a traditional artist sells an art piece and a collector has it, doesn't necessarily mean that the collector, there's a signature and maybe there's a certificate of proof of
Authentication.
right, but we have an embedded, proof. And no matter where it circulates, that artwork, that NFT is always going to be tracked back to the creator, myself, which is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't, there's no fakes. It's just like, no, no. Wildy made this on such and such date on this chain, sold to such and such and such and such. There's like proof no matter what. So I wanted to try something new with you. And if you wanted to tell the folks, because we haven't got a chance, because lives be living, um, you want to talk about what the El Futuro y las Flores is that happened during the 9th Annual International Congress on Strategic Communications last year at the University of Medellin, Colombia, via Hola Metaverso, and speak a little bit about that. And then I want to show like a video if it works out for the folks that are watching.
Um, yeah, so we, Ritzy and we have our friend Max and Ozzy. Um, I was invited from in behalf of Hola Metaverso to basically participate in this immersive fashion show. I remember Ozzy approached me at NFTYC. Max was there. He's like, "Do you guys want to direct a fashion show?" Max and I were like, "Sure." And we said yes. And basically, the Universidad de Medellin has a fashion design program, right? Or I guess it's a program, and the students do a like their thesis every year. I believe they do a fashion show. So we basically Ozzy pitched this idea to the university about how about we create this immersive fashion show with the fashion design students, where it's physical pieces that the students will make. Then we'll have AI, our artificial intelligence, and then also AR, augmented reality, because we had the filters that the students made. And I guess they said yes. So I pitched the idea of El Futuro en las Flores, and it's about how do we as creator, do the students, the next generation, preserve um, with advancing technology like artificial intelligence, how do we still pay tribute to nature and to um, our traditional life, right? And say, and I gave the example of looking to the flowers, and I did this whole pitch about how one day the flowers in the future are going to be what we are going to use as a source of power still. So the students ran with it. that's what I told him. I gave him inspiration. I created a deck for them and all this crazy cybers in the future, and the students went with it, and they blew me away with what they worked on. I mean, some had created physical pieces that use a certain type of flower that was like medicinal. Some talked about women's reproductive rights, and they use a flower. I mean, it was just so out of this world, that I thought it was a great idea if I took what they created in a short amount of time and do almost like a digital twin of their pieces with artificial intelligence. So it was 28 students, I believe, 28 pieces. So I was able to generate. So it's like I gave them the inspiration, they did the physical pieces, and I took their concepts, I fed it back into my AI machines and recreated their physical pieces as AI kind of uh, inspired by their designs. And then for each design, I created a digital artwork that went along with it. And then Max was able to generate all the music for it, the videos of the students with like, work in progress, and then like the behind the scenes and the sewing. And I was just blown away because I remember in our conversation, like our first meeting, Ritzy, Ozzy, and Max, and I was like, I already see it. Whenever I see it, it's gonna happen. And literally, the fact that the students created these huge floral 3D flowers to go on the stage. We had this massive digital screen that was from floor to ceiling. They had flowers all over. I mean, it was just like how I saw it in my mind. And I was just like so blown away by just the creativity of the students and seeing them so excited when I showed them like their digital twin. They were like, "What?" And they're like, "Is this like the metaverse?" I'm like, "It's artificial intelligence." So I hope that we could show the video because it was the physical pieces coming down the runway, and then the AI on the screen, and then some students had their phone up so you can see like butterflies coming out of the dresses and flowers blooming. It was pretty epic. I think it was bigger than what we had. I don't know. Do you think it was bigger than what we thought it would be?
I think it turned out way bigger because it was like, oh, let's do a fashion show that's part of this. And then maybe let's do it outside to, oh, the university is hiring a professional modeling agency, runway agency to having in the theater at the University of Medellin, which is the largest theater in all of Colombia.
We're in the largest theater of the
Of
country.
all of the country. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it I think it went to next levels, and I also think that the commitment uh and that you and Max had, you gave them an idea, they broke up in groups, and then each group took like their own little theme and then made that. So it was nice to see different you know, takes on a similar theme, but then you taking it next level, I think really showed another level of commitment because you're just like, they're inspired by my theme, but now I'm inspired by their thing. So it was really reciprocal, and I think it was showing by doing, where people are like, oh, AI, but this was a great way to show. I think we built a lot of different bridges by making this happen. I think by you taking the reins and showing them, this is, you're just not going to do just this. There's it can go together, the cut and sew with the AI version. So it's a tool, but also it supports your ideas, so it doesn't take away. And I think also really love the concept of, the future and the flowers, like tech and the environment. And we discussed how Medellin lowered the overall temperature of their city by planting plants and flowers by like 30 degrees, like all these different ways of thinking. We're in this emerging tech because we're, you know idea makers, connectors, innovators, and it's like showing the next generation, they're all impacted. And so I want to try to show this first video is, can you see that?
Yep.
Okay. So this is you, for those that are watching, this is Wildy. This is the day of, and we're downstairs, like backstage. This is you showing the students
Yeah. I love this
her
video.
AI renditions. Look at them. They're just like blown away.
Yeah. No, I love it.
Okay, so
Oh my gosh, the stress.
the stress. That's, let me see, do I have it on? That's you. That's, was that the day before or day
No,
of?
day of, or maybe it is the day before. No, no, no. It's the day of, like in the morning
This is
before
like
the show.
mission control center, right? And
Yeah.
it's trying to sync the videos and try to get the timing of the models and when they're going to come through. And it was like this whole thing.
Yes. We had to make sure that when because the models will have to, they were coming down the stairs, remember? So there was a camera crew up outside recording the models outside, then a camera crew in the bottom recording the models going down. But then at the same time, they had to sync the video to each digital piece. And this is the behind the scenes video that Max
Right.
did.
And remember, Wildy just said that she envisioned all these flowers. So those flowers, different colors are going to, so this is still like rehearsal. We're trying to see the setup, but this is Wildy. And then I show you how big
Crazy.
they're going to come down those stairs. And like, time went by so fast from that initial meeting of like, do we want to do this? And, and then how it just turned to something else. So let me show you this. I'm going to show you 2 more videos. People that are listening like, ugh, but it's very important. That's why you need to watch the YouTube of it all.
On YouTube, guys.
Exactly.
We
Okay.
have we should put the whole video on YouTube, the one that Ozzy made.
Yes, I think there's a link to that. I'll put it in the show notes. But this is this is one of them, and that's your design in the background. And here is the design. I mean, look at that. It
And
goes together.
and just so the viewers and the listeners know, it's not like we worked hand in hand where like I physically saw the cage. That's the thing. I saw the students' sketches and like their concepts, and then I generated that. So it's just the way everything, literally, they did become digital twins of AI version of the physical pieces was very, like I was like, whoa, like this is crazy how it looked like. Obviously, I'm in the United States. The students are in Colombia. I met
Right.
up with them twice. I did a workshop, but they were busy sewing, so they didn't really have the time to also to generate images themselves, which is what I wanted. But the synchronicity of them of both worlds was pretty crazy.
So on point. And then this is the maybe one of the last ones that I'll show. I loved all of them. I loved the concepts, but this one really got me because it was like fungi, mushrooms. Like, I don't know. It just like matched, all of them matched, but this was just like, ugh, it did something to me. I think the colors and that piece, you can hear me go, yeah. It's like she said, you didn't know the pieces yet. You hadn't seen the piece. It was like sketches, maybe idea boards and stuff like that. Um, and then let me see, there's one more
I mean,
that,
we were worked. I was still generating images before before like the show started. Like when I realized that I didn't know that 2 of them were male models and I thought they were women, so I had generated dresses. And I remember like telling Max, no, I have to fix it. Like I just wanted to make sure I honored, each student. I didn't want them to be disappointed. But look at all the amazing students.
yeah, no, the commitment to the students. And I think they will never forget that. Um, oh, here's the last one that I will share is when everything was over. I mean, it was so many students, so many pieces. Amazing work, Wildy, first and foremost.
First and
Amazing
foremost,
work.
couldn't have done it without Ritzy P, who was my partner, and also obviously Max, who poor Max, who had
Poor
a
Max.
we were just like working so hard, and I couldn't have done it with you because you were just like supporting me. You were up with us. It was like 3 a.m. and you're just like we at one point I had like your computer, my computer, like we had all the computers, and I had to borrow everyone's, computers to get it done. And you made sure that I was sleeping right, being fed. I think I got sick. I got the flu
Yeah.
for one day. I mean, because of like how crazy and the traveling, and I would not have been able to do it without you. Like you were encouraging me along the way, have being positive and yeah, encouraging me because we're doing these things again. It is emerging tech, but we are also entrepreneurs. We're leaving our
Yeah.
families,
Our
and sometimes you're like,
mamas.
oh my goodness, again, why am I? And I remember you reminding me, like at the end when all the students were up there, you're like, this is why you're here,
Yeah.
and I'm
No,
like,
for
oh,
sure. No,
yeah.
I mean it's a group effort, right? Like everyone has their part in different parts, and it's all hands on deck. Like that's what we do. That's what we've always done. That's what I've always done, even before emerging tech. Is just like putting on events, putting on projects. It's all when it comes time, it's all hands on deck. But I mean, I also don't think that Ozzy and I would have been there and been felt good to support leading up to it if we didn't see that you put so much into it. This was your own, like we all put in our own time and investment to leading up to it, to being there for a week, and I wouldn't have made my flight if it wasn't for you. I already talked about that in another episode. So, I mean, you said it. I ran with my entire soul. What'd you say?
I'm mad you said the story without me. Somebody else. I'm like,
it,
who stopped the whole plane?
You did. You stopped the whole plane. And I'll put a link to show homeboy, um, the homeboy who helped stop the plane because of you. And I wouldn't have made it. Also, I think it also helped that I was gonna give up, and then I would talk to you when I was running through that Miami airport to try to make it, and you were like, "You can't give up. You got it." And so, just reciprocating when we were in Colombia. I mean, it was an amazing experience, and I feel like the repercussions of that will be a legacy and long lasting. Like work with the professors on other projects, the students will remember that, they will teach someone else, they have this as a video and experience, a portfolio piece to show. And I think that's beautiful. Okay, I'm gonna do one of the questions and comments, and then we'll go into the last questions, the rapid fire round. Okay, Wildy, one of the things I've always admired is how naturally you move between fashion and art, and how you bring tech into the mix without losing the soul of your work. As someone who shares that love for that intersection of fashion and art, I'm curious, how far into the future do you see your creations evolving, whether as wearable pieces, immersive installations, or something we haven't even imagined yet? And that is by fellow artist, fellow One Love Art DAO member, Janine Shannon Penn.
Hey, Thea. We ready to auntie Janine, is it? I love that question. And I do want to, like, the way we did the immersive fashion show in Medellin was amazing. And I definitely, I don't know if you guys seen, I have done work where it's just like my passion little thing. I'll throw it, sprinkle it out there, and I won't say anything. But I do love myself some installations. Like that is a dream to have art installations and to have an immersive experience, like walking into a gallery and it's like my whole like a solo show, and I'll have digital artwork from floor to ceiling, but also some uh augmented reality, maybe with the Oculus on, and you're inside a flower. I would also like my one of my biggest dreams, and I don't know why, and people ask me when, but to drop a physical collection, clothing collection, would
Hell
be
yeah.
amazing. And what I picture is that my clothing would have a tech in it. So whether it
Yes.
is it's this shirt and you put your phone on and a huge flower comes out of it, because I do believe in the future we're all going to have, glasses on, and we'll be walking down the street and everyone's clothes is going to be doing something crazy. And I think that I see myself in that space, where you're wearing like a wildy t-shirt, but you wear your meta glasses and it's like a blooming flower.
Hmm.
I definitely love that. Janine knows because she said it. She said, "Where do I see myself?" And I do see myself in installation, wearables, because I do believe in metaverse. I was just in Decentraland featured for Fashion Week there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need new outfits for my avatar for Fashion Week. Like, I want my stuff. So I
Right.
think about all that, and I do love, and I am so passionate about all of the worlds in one, if that makes sense, under the wildflower feels. Um,
Umbrella of it all. Yes. No, I love that. Yeah, experientials. I think that's where we're all moving towards. Some people have it, some people do that, but I think that's encompasses all the things, right? The digital, the AR, VR, XR of it all, plus a physical. I
mhm,
think it's all the senses together. Okay,
yeah,
Wildy, are you ready for the not so rapid fire questions, the AKA slow as hell questions?
sure, I'm ready.
3 words to describe yourself.
Funny, I think, I don't know. Creative. These are boring. Funny, creative, and ambivert. People don't know that I'm an ambivert. Like ambivert, ambivert. How do you
Que es
say it?
eso? What?
I'm not an extrovert. I'm not an introvert. I'm an ambivert. Am I saying that right?
Ambivert? Ambivert. What is that?
Basically, I'm probably saying it wrong, but it's AMB, ambivert. Not an introvert, not a extrovert. So basically, I can hang. I can hang outside. I can talk to people, but I will need 4 to 5 days to recover from that. You might not
Sí,
know
sí,
it,
sí.
but I need to. I don't really recharge with people. You could be the greatest person, and so inspiring, but I'm tired. So I need to recover on my own. So I know that some people like extroverts, they recover, they can suck the energy out of people and they're like, I'm ready to go. Not me. So I'm not a shy person, but sometimes I'm in my mood. I mean, you lived with me for a week.
You were fantastic.
Yeah,
Plus, we were
'cause-
such a beautiful city.
yes, yes. Yeah. But so basically I'm outgoing to a certain limit, but I like to be by myself.
Yes. No, I concur. Whatever that is, if that's what it's called, that's what I am as well.
That's just a
So,
sporty.
now I've always been like that. I was thinking about college. Like everyone's like, yeah, all weekend. I was like, no. I was
Yeah.
like, I need some alone time. So when I was looking for videos to post so we could watch together, and I was looking through that whole time, I was like, there's a lot of times where you and I were like without even trying, wearing the same colors, wearing the same steez, like. And then remember in the last day we had both had buns and both
Related girl in that picture. I see your sister. I'm like, I think.
in another timeline from another timeline. No, but that was the best, and you were great to travel with because you figure out you see a person in their entirety with when one you travel and two you work with them, three when they're under stress. It was all of those things, and I still loved you.
Good. Yeah, when I'm under stress, I just get very peaceful. But that's why maybe why I got autoimmune because I just keep it in.
Keep it internal.
I'm always like, "Ow!" No, but I think like when it's like a lot, I just really zen in.
Mm,
It's gonna be fine, and obviously verbal process things. I love verbal processing things with people, but I think I just I get very calm. I don't know what my husband would say though, because he's
right.
pretty chill. But with him, it's different. With your spouse, you can kind of like, let things out that you want to let out in front of other people. So like they ain't going
Right.
nowhere. We married.
Yeah, no, but it was a beautiful experience with you, Max, Ozzy, and just the whole week. And it was, it went by pretty fast. So I'm excited to hopefully do something together again. I mean, we've been in New York together, Miami together, and da 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 in another country. So that's great. Next one, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Ooh, everyone knows who the queen is. Wait, hold on. Say I'm butchering it. The queen doesn't need to say she's the queen. Everyone knows it.
Right. See, see,
That was
see.
an advice from an old director when I was like, I was feeling a little bit like I had to compete with somebody else. She's like, "Girl, we know you, the queen." I'm like, no, but it's kind of like be confident. Like you don't need to be insecure or try to or feel like you have to compete with somebody else or that.
Right.
No, like chill, being your own who you are, and people will see. I think also the older you get, like kind of get tired of you don't have time to
Yeah, I
pretend
don't gotta announce it. I'm just that. Like, I don't gotta announce the queen. I just am the queen. Get on board. Like,
big.
whatever. Um, okay. What's the song that you play to get hyped when you need it? What's your go-to?
Lately or like it
Yeah,
sounds so
lately. In life, I don't know, like
I mean,
one.
it sounds I'm gonna say this, I'm definitely like I'm such a mom, but on Fridays, my son and I every Friday after school we play that song like it's Friday. It's Friday, yeah. It's Saturday, Sunday. I don't know if you heard
Who's it by?
old.
Who? I was like, you're not talking about Glorilla. It's
Is it?
7 p.m. Friday. It's 95 degrees. I was like, you're not doing that with your little son.
No, no, this is a clean song. Like it's definitely this is American it's Rebecca Black. It's the song is called Friday.
Oh, yes. Yes. Okay.
And then it's like a I think it's like a remix of an older beat. But anyway, we
Right.
should probably play it as we leave. But it is and it just helps me like, release the stress. Like "Ah, it's Friday. Even though I'm work for myself, so my Monday could be a Friday, but
Right.
because we still do the school through Monday,
Yes.
Friday.
It
It's like
keeps you on the weeks.
I
Yes.
love that. That's definitely like up the off the top of my head. I'm sure I have others, but I do listen to
Well,
that
I
every
will
Friday.
say we're gonna add that to the Word to Your Mama guest hype song playlist on Spotify. And I will say I can confirm that that is the first time Rebecca Black has been added to that list.
Really? But it says Rishin and Nightcrawlers. That's like the remix. It's written
Hmm.
anyway.
Well, Rebecca
Let me
Black,
let
but
me
this,
just
it's Rebecca Black though, right?
yeah. Hold on. Let me just play it quickly. Make sure because we don't want to give credit to somebody. What is this song? It's Friday then. It's Saturday, Sunday. Come on! Don't tell me this don't hit.
Yeah, I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you. It's rated PG. We'll add it to the list. It'll be on the list. We'll have a link to that list in the show notes.
Dopamine re-edit. I'm gonna make sure that we play this edit, not the
Yes,
old.
not like a regular degular. Okay, so that one we'll have a link to that. That one will be on the playlist. Okay, so final question: what will be your legacy?
Wow, it's great. My legacy. I mean, obviously as a mother, my son. Um, uh, but I do want to be remembered for, and I'm not the first one to do it. There's so many women, so many artists that talk about this and embracing it. But I want to leave the art of self embrace
Mm,
behind. And I just had an interview this morning, and I said it in because the standard of beauty is still so much work to do with societal standard of beauty.
right,
Um, and first we had the filters, and then young women are like thinking that they had to look like this. Then we had the surgeries, the Botox, and all this, and now we do have AI, and that's why I love to create diversity within AI because I don't want women or young girls then to look at this perfect image that literally is artificial and think that they have to live up to those beautiful images that we are seeing so much of. So I do
Mm-hmm.
like to disrupt, whether that was in fashion and art, like now in AI. I do like to be known as kind of a disruptor of when things are getting too unrealistic and it's not really looking like the real world. Because I
Right.
don't want these girls out there like changing who they are, because that's what they think they should.
Yeah.
This is not real. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is that a legacy?
Yeah. No, no, no. That's, yeah. Your child, your work, your practice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, Wildy, let the people know. I'll have it in the show notes, but let those that are listening how they can get a hold of you. Where
sure.
can they see your work?
Um, I love, my IG. So Instagram at the Wildflower Fields. On X will be little underline Martinez. Those are I'm on TikTok, Wildflower Fields. But Instagram is where I try to be more present because it's so visually better, like perfect for creators. So the
Right.
Wildflower Fields website, wildflowerfields.art.
Amazing. And then also for those that are looking to hire, she has a company and you want her to consult, you want her and her team to create, reach out to Wildy and maybe she could fit you in, but get in so that you can get on that her schedule. Okay? But thank you so much, Wildy. Me Wildy.
Ritzy, come to Charlotte, girl.
I do want to come to Charlotte because my friend, as soon as I met you, she has vitiligo, and I sent to your art, and I sent her your stuff, and then remember that one time I called you and I was like, there was a bank teller and she had vitiligo, and I told her about you. Like anyone that has, especially if they're women and women of color, I was like, "Do you know my girl Wildy?" Da 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 da. Like to help them embrace, you know what I'm saying, so they don't have to hide it, to know that they're not alone, and stuff like that. So I really appreciate all that you do, Wildy. I'm so happy that I met you. That you're one of my hermanas in this fight, in this game, creating and building in this space. It's not lonely here because I have amazing, dope people like you. So thank you so much.
Thank you for this. I'm so glad I got to spend time with you tonight. Yay!
Yeah. Word to Your Mama is owned and produced by Ritzy P. Intro beat produced by Nico Beats. For partnership inquiries and contact info, check out wordtoyourmama.com. And as always, Word to Your Mama is brought to you by ritzyperiwinkle.com. And now, introducing
the Supernatural Bear Corner.
Supernatural Bear